She slammed my cabin door open and shouted, "This whole place belongs to the HOA now." I just sat there, calm, because she had no idea who was sitting across the table from me. Karen's face was red with rage, waving a crumpled paper that looked like an official notice, but the ink was already smudged from her sweaty hands. "Pack your things," she hissed. "Your little vacation is over. We've decided this cabin isn't fit for you. It'll be listed for community use." I didn't move. I didn't even look up from the cup of coffee on the table, but the man sitting across from me raised his brow, adjusting his glasses. Karen didn't even notice him yet, too busy barking orders like she was queen of the woods. "You think you can just sit here?" she screamed, slapping the fake notice against the wood. "The HOA says you can't stay overnight without approval, and don't bother calling anyone. The law's on my side." That's when he finally spoke. His voice was calm but heavy, the kind of tone that makes a room go quiet without needing to shout. "On your side?" he asked slowly. Karen turned, finally noticing him, her confidence wobbling for just a second. "And who are you supposed to be? Another trespasser?" I couldn't stop the smirk on my face. She had just insulted the one man in the state she should never have crossed. "You might want to be careful with your words," I said, leaning back in my chair, "because you just tried to evict me in front of the state attorney general." Her mouth fell open. For the first time since she barged in, Karen had nothing to say. And that silence, that was worth every second of the fight that was about to come. Karen's silence didn't last long. Her face twisted into a forced smile, the kind people wear when they suddenly realize they're in deep trouble but still think they can talk their way out of it. "Oh, Attorney General, is it? Well, I was only here to, check on the safety of the property. HOA rules, you know. We care about the community." She laughed nervously, but it echoed in the small cabin like a broken record. The Attorney General leaned forward, his fingers tapping the table once, twice, 3 times. He didn't look amused. "So, you entered private property," he said carefully, "without permission, waving a falsified document." Her fake smile froze. "Falsified? Excuse me, this is official." She thrust the paper toward him, but the edges were unevenly cut, and the HOA letterhead looked like it had been printed on a cheap home printer. Even from across the room, it was embarrassing. I crossed my arms and finally stood up. "You taped that to my door last week, too. Remember the one that said I had to pay a fine for having a non-approved mailbox?" The Attorney General took the notice from her hand, scanning it slowly. Then he chuckled, a dry, dangerous chuckle. "This seal," he said, pointing with his finger, "was discontinued in 2008. That means this isn't just fake. It's criminal." Karen's voice cracked. You don't understand. I was told to do this. I was just following orders from the HOA board. They told me to get rid of him." The Attorney General's eyes narrowed, but I caught the flicker of something else in her tone. Orders. Someone else was pulling the strings. And in that moment, I knew this wasn't just about Karen being a power-hungry neighbor. Something much bigger and much dirtier was behind this. Karen stumbled back a step, clutching her fake notice like it was a shield. Her voice trembled now, the arrogance slipping. "I swear, I didn't come up with this myself. The HOA president, he said if I didn't handle it, I'd lose my spot on the board. He told me to push him out no matter what." She jabbed a finger at me like I was the criminal. The Attorney General folded the paper carefully, his tone sharper now. "So, your board directed you to trespass, impersonate authority, and harass a property owner. That's not just HOA business. That's fraud, coercion, possibly conspiracy." Karen's face turned pale. "Conspiracy? No, you don't get it. He's powerful. He has friends in the county office. He promised no one would ever question this. He said people like him," she glared at me, "don't deserve to own lakefront property." The Attorney General shot me a quick glance, then back at her. "People like him. You might want to explain that." But Karen froze. She bit her lip, realizing she'd said too much. I stepped closer, my voice low but steady. This isn't about the cabin, is it? It's about pushing certain families out of this area. People who don't fit their perfect little picture. Her silence was all the confirmation I needed. She looked trapped, eyes darting between me and the man she had insulted minutes ago without realizing who he was. The Attorney General leaned back in his chair, calm again, but with steel in his voice. If your president thinks his reach extends higher than the law, he's about to learn just how wrong he is. Karen's hands started to shake. For the first time, she wasn't just angry. She was scared, and deep down, I knew this was only the surface of a much darker game. The cabin door creaked again, but this time it wasn't Karen barging in. Heavy footsteps echoed on the wooden porch before a deep voice called out, smooth and commanding. "Karen, what's taking so long?" She flinched like a child caught stealing. Her eyes darted toward the doorway just as a tall man in an expensive suit stepped inside, brushing the mountain dust off his polished shoes. His confidence filled the room instantly, like he already believed he owned it. The Attorney General didn't move, but I felt his posture stiffen. The man's gaze landed on me first, then on Karen, then finally on the Attorney General. For a split second his smirk cracked, but he quickly recovered, straightening his tie. Well, this is unexpected. Karen rushed to explain herself, her words tumbling over each other. "Mr. Lawson, sir, I was just handling it. Like you said, but he's got the Attorney General here and—" "Enough!" Lawson's voice cut like a blade. He stepped closer, his polished shoes clicking against the floorboards. "You were supposed to keep things quiet, Karen. Instead, you've made a circus out of it." The Attorney General finally spoke, slow and deliberate. "Mr. Lawson, I presume, president of this HOA?" Lawson's smirk returned, colder this time. "Titles don't matter here. What matters is that this cabin sits on land the board intends to regulate, and you," he pointed at me without even looking, "are in the way." I felt the heat rising in my chest, but I forced myself to stay calm. "Funny," I said, "because last time I checked, this land has been in my family for 3 generations. You don't regulate family history." For the first time, Lawson's polished mask slipped, his jaw tightened. "History doesn't matter. Power does." The Attorney General leaned forward, eyes locked on Lawson like a hawk on prey. "Then you're about to find out what real power looks like." The room went still. Even Karen didn't dare breathe, because this wasn't just a neighborhood squabble anymore. This was war. Lawson didn't blink. He walked right past Karen, ignoring her like she was nothing more than a pawn that had already served its purpose. His eyes stayed locked on the Attorney General, his tone dripping with arrogance. "You think your title scares me?" Lawson said. "You sit in an office. I sit on land deals, zoning permits, and judges' dinner tables. Out here, my word carries more weight than yours." Karen's lips parted in shock. She hadn't expected him to challenge the Attorney General so openly. But Lawson wasn't bluffing. The way he carried himself, the smug calm in his voice, it was clear he believed every word. The Attorney General's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, Lawson snapped his fingers. And that's when 2 men appeared on the porch. Not in suits, not in uniforms, just big, heavy-built men in plain clothes, standing with crossed arms like silent threats. One leaned against the doorframe. The other cracked his knuckles slowly. Karen whispered, You brought them here?" Her voice trembled. Lawson didn't even glance at her. "You wanted this handled, didn't you? Well, this is how things get handled." I felt my stomach twist, but I didn't step back. Instead, I looked at the Attorney General. He hadn't moved, hadn't even shifted his expression. He was calm. Too calm. Lawson leaned closer to him, his smile spreading. "Here's what's going to happen. You both walk away from this cabin tonight. Forget you saw anything. If not, accidents happen in places like this. Remote, quiet, forgotten." For a moment, the only sound was the crackle of the old fireplace. Then the Attorney General finally spoke, his voice soft but sharp as a knife. Funny thing about accidents. They don't usually get caught on live surveillance feeds. Lawson's smirk faltered because then a faint red light blinked from the corner of the cabin. He hadn't noticed the cameras, and I knew every single second had already been recorded. Lawson's eyes darted to the corner of the cabin, catching that tiny red light. His smug expression cracked for the first time. He took a half-step back, his voice harder now. You've been recording this?" I folded my arms, my voice steady. "Not just recording, streaming straight to the county server." Karen gasped, covering her mouth. The two thugs on the porch shifted uneasily, their confidence flickering. They hadn't signed up to be caught on camera threatening a state official. The Attorney General leaned back in his chair, calm as stone. "Every word, Mr. Lawson, every threat, every admission, already saved, already backed up." He tapped his phone once on the table. "By now, my office has a copy." Lawson's jaw tightened, but his eyes betrayed panic. "You think that matters? You think anyone's going to touch me? I've bought half this county." The Attorney General's lips curled into a thin smile. "Then I guess you forgot about the other half." For the first time, Lawson's men hesitated. One muttered, "Boss, maybe we should—" But Lawson cut him off with a sharp glare. He was still trying to hold on to control, but the cracks were spreading fast. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. "See, that's your problem. You thought this was just about me. But you walked in here threatening the Attorney General on camera. That's not HOA business anymore. That's federal." Karen's knees buckled and she slumped against the wall. No, I didn't sign up for this," she whispered. Lawson turned toward her, fury in his eyes. "Shut up, Karen." But the Attorney General stood now, his voice carrying the weight of final judgment. "No, Lawson, you shut up, because the moment you walked through that door, this cabin stopped being your playground and became a crime scene." The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the fire seemed to burn quieter, and I knew the fall of Lawson had just begun. Lawson's composure finally cracked. Sweat beaded on his forehead as the weight of the Attorney General's words sank in. He tried to stand taller, puffing up his chest, but his voice betrayed him with a tremor. You don't scare me. I'll bury this whole thing in court. Judges owe me favors. Money talks." The Attorney General slipped a hand into his jacket pocket. For a tense moment, Lawson's men stiffened, but all he pulled out was a small badge wallet. He held it up slowly, the gold emblem gleaming in the firelight. "This isn't county," he said coldly. "This is state, and that means every federal agency is one phone call away. You think your money can buy that?" Lawson's men exchanged uneasy glances. One of them finally muttered, "Boss, he's not bluffing. Maybe we should go." But Lawson snapped, his voice cracking. "Nobody's leaving. He doesn't have proof." Stepped forward, pulling out my phone, the live feed still running. "Funny you should say that, because over 1,000 people are already watching this stream." Karen's eyes widened. She sank lower against the wall, whispering frantically to herself, No, this can't be happening." The Attorney General's voice turned colder than ice. "Lawson, here's what's going to happen. You're going to step outside with me calmly. Your men are going to stay put. And if you resist, well, the sheriff's deputies are already en route. They've been watching, too." The thugs shifted nervously. One actually stepped back toward the porch, clearly not ready to go down for Lawson. Lawson's face twisted with rage, but the fight in his eyes was dimming. He knew he was cornered. Still, he spat the words like poison. "You'll regret this. You don't know who I am." The Attorney General leaned in close, his voice a low growl. "Oh, I know exactly who you are, and tonight, so does everyone else." And with that, the faint wail of sirens began to echo across the lake. The sirens grew louder, bouncing across the still water of the lake. Blue and red lights flashed through the cabin windows, and for the first time, Lawson's mask shattered completely. His face drained of color as the reality set in. His empire of intimidation was collapsing right in front of him. Karen slid down the wall, covering her face with both hands. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispered, rocking slightly. "I just wanted to keep my place on the board. I didn't know." The Attorney General stepped toward the door as deputies stormed the porch, weapons ready but steady. He raised a hand, commanding the room without shouting. "He's inside. Fraud, extortion, criminal conspiracy. Take him." Lawson tried one last desperate move, pointing at me. "This is his fault. He's the one trespassing. He provoked all of this. Arrest him instead." A deputy turned, calm but firm. "Sir, this man is standing inside his own registered property with 3 generations of ownership records on file. You, on the other hand," he slapped the cuffs on Lawson's wrists with a sharp click, "are done." Lawson struggled, veins bulging in his neck as he shouted, "I own this county. I own everyone." But his words were drowned out by the sound of the deputies dragging him out onto the porch, his expensive shoes scraping against the old wood. His men didn't even resist. They had already backed away, hands raised, muttering that they wanted no part of it. Karen looked up at me, her face streaked with tears. "They'll come after me too, won't they?" I met her eyes for just a second before answering. "You made your choice when you walked through that door with a fake notice. Maybe now you'll finally understand. This isn't your land to control." The Attorney General placed a firm hand on my shoulder. "Justice is slow sometimes," he said, his voice steady. "But when it arrives, it doesn't miss." As the deputies loaded Lawson into the squad car, his shouts echoing through the night, I stepped out onto the porch. The cool lake breeze hit my face, carrying a calm I hadn't felt in weeks. And in that moment, I knew this fight wasn't just about me or my cabin. It was about something deeper: the right to stand your ground, to protect what's yours, and to remind people like Lawson and Karen that no one is above the law. "I didn't fight for this country," I said quietly, more to myself than anyone else, "just to be told I can't live on my own land." The Attorney General gave a slow nod. "And tonight, the whole state heard you loud and clear." The sirens faded into the distance, but the message lingered in the night air. Freedom, family, and justice always outlast corruption.